In this next video, we're going to go outside and take a look at how we might compose a view for the outside of the building. We'll look at this from the perspective of approaching the building. I'm going to hit the space bar to drop down to the ground. Right away here we can see the depth of field, still adding some interest to the trees in the background rather than them being super crisp. They sort of blur out just a little bit. In this case, the autofocus looks like it looks pretty good. And again, notice the background, the sky dome. You can start to see some of the trees in the reflection of the glass rather than just that stark horizon line. So even if you were doing post-production and adding your own background, the problem is all the glass is reflecting that stark background that's behind you. If we right click and change the time of day, we can see the clouds in the sky and reflecting in the glass, and even in the glass in the vehicles adjusting. So we can sort of adjust this to maybe emphasize the fact that the sunshade is doing its job and casting a shadow on the glass. And then once we find a view that we like, we can save this view again back to Revit. We can then use the render command to render a high quality 4K still image. In this model, because we've taken the time to set up the light sources inside the building, we can switch the time of day to nighttime. You can see the street lighting and the light bollards that lead up to the entry look quite nice. We see stars in the sky, and you can even see the moon moving through the sky. Back on the atmosphere tab in Enscape, if we wanted to lighten up this artificial light, we could do that. If we decide we just want to get back to the default, we double click on that slider and it puts it back into the default position. There's other options here that can be adjusted related to the light, such as lens flare and bloom. Adjusting these have different effects. You can see the sort of the glare when we do the lens flare, or the bloom. If you crank that all the way down, there's not that really bright look coming from the light source. But if you look at pictures of buildings or just look at a light, you'll sort of see that's a real thing. So it's kind of nice to have that turned on. And then once we get the view the way we like it, we can render the still image. You can see how the light coming out the back windows are actually lighting the trees from the side, which is really nice. So leaving this at nighttime, we can sort of navigate over here by the reflecting pool and sort of zoom in on the main entry. So we see a nice view of the two-story lobby and the cross bracing in the entryway and the reflection of the building in the water. We'll go ahead and save this view as well. So if you remember from the previous video, the field of view is actually still set to be not as wide an angle as the default for Enscape. And that concludes this quick tutorial on how to create a still image rendering of the exterior of the building.